friends, it's Michelle from Little Farm in the Valley. So it is rhubarb season. That's so exciting. So if you're like most people, they plant rhubarb and the rhubarb comes up and they're like, oh boy, what do we do with this? How is rhubarb good? So I'm here to solve that problem for you. Today we're going to do 3 really, really delicious and pretty easy rhubarb dishes. Desserts, I don't know what the right word is, but anyway, we're going to be making rhubarb stuff today. So I've got ingredients scattered everywhere here, but we're going to start with kind of the hardest one, and that's going to be the rhubarb tarts. So if you're familiar with butter tarts, you are probably going to like the rhubarb tart as well. It's basically a butter tart with rhubarb added. So the first part is we're going to make the crust. I guess this is a little complicated because you have to make the crust and then you have to make the filling. But it's really not that hard. It's just like following any other recipe. So the thing is, I do big recipes because rhubarb season is not very long. Rhubarb doesn't like the heat, so it's not good very long. But we really do love these rhubarb tarts. So I do a very big recipe, and then we put some in the freezer for a couple months down the road when it's tea time or coffee time and we'd like a rhubarb tart, but rhubarb season is far behind us. It's really nice to have some of these in the freezer. So that's why I do the very large recipes of rhubarb. So I'm pretty determined to get my rhubarb stuff done this morning, so I just piled all the ingredients out to start off with, and hopefully it doesn't just confuse me. So I have 8 cups of flour, and I'm going to do a tablespoon of baking powder. I'm doubling my recipe in my head, so I'm going to have to figure this as I'm going. So the great thing about these 3 rhubarb things that I'm making is they're all so different. So I'm going to start working on the second one while we're doing the crust. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make rhubarb lemonade. So I've got real lemon juice. So what I'm going to do is just take a saucepan and put 4 cups of rhubarb on the stove with some water, maybe 2 cups of water, and a cup of sugar. And that's going to boil while I'm messing around with my tarts here. And I really don't have a time frame for this. It's just whenever I'm doing stuff around the kitchen, I have that going. And once that rhubarb is soft and I feel like the juices are boiled out, I'm going to strain that off, and we're going to use the juice to make a really delicious lemonade. So I've got my 2 cups of water, and I'm going to do 4 cups of diced rhubarb. I diced my rhubarb pretty chunky, and for one of these recipes I might have to chop it down a little bit more, but for this it's fine. Totally fine for this lemonade recipe. I'm going to add a cup of sugar. Rhubarb is very sour, very tart. So in most of these recipes, we're not going to be skimping on the sugar. So anyway, I'm going to stir that and just put it on the stove while I am doing my other kitchen stuff. So basically what we are doing is we are making kind of a pie crust. So my next ingredient is 2 tablespoons of vinegar. I'm going to do 2 cups of water. So there's my water. So I have 4 eggs. Oh, I saw a little eggshell there. I'll try to get that out. And for my shortening, my recipe calls for 1 pound of shortening. I'm going to be using half butter and half lard. Oh, I lost the eggshell. I guess we'll be getting extra calcium. It was just a tiny piece. Okay, so I'm going to do a half pound of lard. And my butter is frozen. So what I like to do when I'm making pie crust and the butter is frozen, I like to take a little grater and I'm going to grate the butter into here so it's not hard frozen butter. It takes a little bit of time. it works best when your butter is frozen or very cold. So what this does is it shreds my butter into very fine pieces, and it makes mixing the pie crust a lot easier, but it does take a couple minutes. Okay, so my dough is mixed. It's a soft dough. It's kind of sticky. I might add a little bit more flour. Thing with making these recipes bigger in your head is sometimes you need to adjust the ratios a little bit. So what we have basically is a pie dough. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be rolling this out as flat as we can and cutting little circles of dough to make our tarts. So for now, we're just going to rest this and I will work on the filling. But before that, I think my rhubarb juice that I'm cooking on the stove, I think I can go ahead and strain that. So here is the juice. Oop. So I'm gonna have to, I got a little bit in my bowl underneath the strainer. So what I'm gonna do is just strain the juice off into a bowl. But as you can see, it's very soft. And it didn't take very long. I put my burner on high and it took maybe 20 minutes. So we're going to try and squeeze out as much of the juice as we can. So I'll probably just have this sitting here, and whenever I walk by, I'll squeeze out some juice. And in the process, this will start to slowly cool down, and it'll be a little bit easier to work with. So that's what I'm going to be doing with this rhubarb. For now, I'm just going to let it sit here and drip. So for my tart filling, I am doing some melted butter. So I'm taking my recipe 3 times. So my original recipe calls for 3/4 cup of butter. So I'm taking that times 3. And I'm just going to melt my butter on the stove. So I measured my brown sugar into a bowl. Like I said, this is a huge recipe. So I'm going to add a couple tablespoons of vanilla. And then my melted butter is on the stove. And now I need to do a whole bunch of eggs. Since this will not fit into my KitchenAid, I am going to use my stick blender. I've never done this, but I don't see why it won't work. So this is my butter, eggs, brown sugar, and vanilla, which is the filling for the tarts. And we'll see how it works to use this stick blender. And we're going to take 2 cups of our lemon juice. Well, I think I might start with 1 cup. I think 1 cup might be plenty. Recipe I saw said 2 cups, but that seems like a lot. So I'm going to start with 1 cup. And then I'm going to take my rhubarb juice and add it to this lemonade. We put a cup of sugar in that, remember? So if it's not sweet enough, you can always add more, but I have a feeling it'll be pretty sweet. It should be sweet enough. So we'll give it a good stir. We'll see how it tastes. Just gonna pour some into this cup. It's good. I would say most people would say it needs more sugar, so we'll see. I don't think I'll add more sugar. I saw a trick the other day where if you think something needs a little bit more sugar, try adding a pinch of salt, and the salt will help more of the sweetness come out. So why don't we try that first instead of adding more sugar? I feel like a cup of sugar for a gallon of something to drink is plenty. And it's not tart enough that you have to make a sour face. It's just a little refreshingly tart. Very, very good. So I'm going to put that in the refrigerator and we're going to enjoy it later. So now that we've got our pan in the oven, I'm going to work on the last rhubarb recipe, which is a rhubarb streusel muffin. And I just typed rhubarb muffins into Pinterest and clicked one that looked good. So this is called rhubarb streusel muffins. If you want to look this up, you will probably find it on Pinterest or Google. So I went ahead and did the first bunch of ingredients: brown sugar, oil, egg, and a half cup buttermilk and vanilla. And that's in my mixing bowl, so I'm going to mix that. And then I'm going to add flour, salt, baking soda, walnuts, and my rhubarb. But I'm going to have to take that rhubarb that's pretty chunky and I'm going to chop it a little bit smaller. And then there's another thing I wanted to say. Oh, I don't have walnuts. What I have are almonds. So I'm going to take some almonds and chop them. So, and then the streusel is for the top. That's a 1/4 cup brown sugar, a 1/2 teaspoon cinnamon, and a 1/4 cup chopped walnuts. And you mix that up and put it over the top. So I'm going to start with combining my sugar and oil and buttermilk and vanilla. And then I'm going to do the dry ingredients. So here we have our 3 rhubarb recipes all ready to enjoy. So for me, the muffins are more of a breakfast thing. They could be a coffee or tea time thing, but in my mind, muffins are a breakfast. But our tarts are definitely like a coffee or a snack break thing, or a tea break, whatever you want to do. They are so, so delicious. And our lemonade, of course, can be enjoyed all day long. So anyway, guys, hopefully this gave you some practical ideas of what to do with the rhubarb. You will probably not be disappointed if you try any of these recipes. So anyway, guys, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss a video, and we will talk to you soon.